Have you ever been erased, without a single word being spoken? No public statement. No dramatic announcement. Just one silent move behind the walls of Buckingham Palace. And overnight, Meghan Markle's access reportedly vanished. Not from a social event. Not from a royal balcony. But from something far more powerful. The monarchy's memory itself. Because inside Buckingham Palace, information is power. And according to growing reports from royal insiders, King Charles may have just drawn a line no one can ignore. A line about trust, control, and who still belongs inside the royal circle. What happened next revealed a deeper battle unfolding behind palace doors, one that could reshape the future of the monarchy forever. For years, Buckingham Palace has operated like a fortress of secrets. Behind every ceremony, every smile, every carefully staged appearance, sits an enormous archive of royal history. Private letters, internal briefings, confidential records, documents tied to some of the monarchy's most sensitive moments. These aren't ordinary files. They are the blueprint of the crown itself. And access to them is almost never granted lightly. That's why insiders say the recent move involving Meghan Markle sent shockwaves through royal circles. Because according to palace-adjacent reporting, Meghan's archival permissions were suddenly revoked during an internal safeguarding review allegedly authorized under King Charles III. No warning. No explanation. Just silence. And inside royal institutions, silence usually means something important has already been decided. At first, it looked administrative. A technical adjustment. A routine security review. But within hours, royal aides reportedly realized this was something much bigger. Departments that rarely coordinated directly were suddenly communicating in rapid succession. Buckingham Palace archivists, Clarence House officials, senior private secretary teams. Everything moved quickly. Quietly. Precisely. Almost like the palace had rehearsed it. And that's when speculation exploded. Because this wasn't simply about digital access. It was about who the monarchy still trusts with its history. Inside the royal system, access isn't just permission. It's status. Recognition. A signal that someone still exists within the institution's protected inner world. And according to royal commentators, removing that access carries enormous symbolic weight. Especially when it happens without public explanation. To understand why this matters, you have to understand how royal archives work. The monarchy survives on continuity. Every generation protects the image of stability by preserving a carefully managed version of history. Internal correspondence. Strategy briefings. Ceremonial planning records. Sensitive communications stretching back decades. Some reportedly involve moments connected to Princess Diana. Others relate to modern transitions inside the royal family itself. These records don't just preserve events. They preserve narrative. And narrative, in the royal family, is everything. That's why King Charles reportedly became increasingly focused on what insiders describe as institutional safeguarding. Especially after years of public interviews, memoirs, documentaries, and explosive revelations involving the Sussexes. Every disclosure changed public perception. Every story reshaped how millions viewed the monarchy. And according to palace interpretations, that created growing anxiety inside the institution. Because once private information enters the public sphere, the palace loses control over context. And for the monarchy, losing control of context can be dangerous. Suddenly, the issue wasn't simply leaks. It was interpretation. Who controls the meaning of royal history once it leaves palace walls? That question reportedly became central to internal discussions. And then came the review. Sources claim Buckingham Palace began reassessing external access permissions tied to non-working royal affiliates. That's when Meghan Markle's name was allegedly flagged. Not necessarily because of direct wrongdoing, but because the institution itself had changed. The monarchy was becoming more defensive. more controlled, more focused on tightening informational boundaries. And in that environment, even former proximity to sensitive material became a potential risk. According to palace-adjacent interpretations, internal discussions shifted towards something called trust boundary violations. Not criminal violations. Not official accusations. Something more subtle. The idea that proximity to sensitive information could eventually influence public narratives in ways the institution could no longer manage. That distinction matters. Because in royal systems, perception can become just as powerful as fact. And once trust starts weakening inside the palace, every connection gets reassessed. Even old ones. Especially old ones. At the center of all this sat King Charles III. A monarch already facing immense pressure. Health concerns. Institutional reform. Public scrutiny. Family division. And according to insiders, his reign is increasingly defined by one goal above all else: protecting the monarchy's long-term stability. That means preserving not just the crown, but the crown's memory. So rather than creating public confrontation, palace officials reportedly chose a quieter strategy. Administrative execution. No dramatic announcements. No headlines from the palace itself. Just one synchronized internal move. And suddenly, Meghan Markle's reported access credentials were gone. Across databases. Reading permissions. Restricted archival systems. Disabled almost instantly. Inside royal operations, that level of coordination is rare. Because synchronized removals usually indicate approval from the highest levels of administration. And once the action was complete, palace staff reportedly entered full confidentiality mode. No public clarification. No contextual explanation. Only procedural silence. But outside palace walls, silence created its own storm. Almost immediately, two competing narratives emerged. One side viewed the move as simple institutional security. A monarchy protecting sensitive records during a volatile modern era. The other saw something far more personal. A final symbolic separation between Meghan Markle and the institution she once represented. And honestly, both interpretations gained traction. Because the timing made everything more explosive. This happened after years of public tension between the Sussexes and the royal family. The Oprah interview. The Netflix series. Prince Harry's memoir. Repeated public discussions about private royal dynamics. Every revelation widened the divide. Every interview intensified scrutiny. And now, critics and supporters alike began revisiting those moments under a completely different lens. Was the palace simply responding to modern security concerns? Or was this a message? A quiet declaration that the monarchy was permanently redefining who remains inside the royal circle? That question fueled nonstop speculation. And then another detail reportedly surfaced. Prince Harry himself was allegedly informed only after the implementation had already begun. If true, that changes everything. Because it suggests information inside the royal structure is no longer flowing through family channels, but through institutional ones. That's a massive shift. It means the monarchy may now prioritize procedural control over personal relationships. And if that's true, this isn't just a family conflict anymore. It's a structural transformation. Royal observers say Prince William and Princess Anne are reportedly aligned with a stricter institutional approach moving forward. One based on what commentators call duty-based legitimacy. In simple terms, access is no longer tied to who you were. It's tied to what role you currently serve. Working royals remain inside the operational structure. Non-working royals move outside it. And according to insiders, that distinction is becoming sharper than ever before. That means access to royal memory itself may now depend entirely on active service to the crown. Not history. Not marriage. Not family connection. Duty. That represents a huge philosophical shift inside the monarchy. Because for generations, royal identity blurred the lines between institution and family. Now those lines appear to be hardening. Quietly. Systematically. Permanently. Behind the scenes, Buckingham Palace is reportedly conducting broader reviews of archival governance and informational security. Not just digital systems. Everything. Who can access records? Who can interpret them? How long permissions remain valid? How exposure risks are managed? The monarchy is no longer treating archives as passive historical storage. It's treating them as strategic assets. Protected constitutional memory. And once you understand that, this entire situation starts looking very different. Because this was never just about files. It was about control over the royal narrative itself. Who gets to shape it? Who gets to reinterpret it? And who gets excluded from it entirely? That's why this story matters far beyond Meghan Markle. It reveals what the modern monarchy fears most. Not scandal. Not criticism. Loss of narrative control. Because in today's world, information moves faster than institutions can contain it. One interview can reshape decades of public perception overnight. One memoir can redefine relationships forever. One leaked detail can alter history itself. And the palace knows that. So now, under King Charles III, the monarchy appears to be evolving into something more guarded than ever before. More controlled. More strategic. More focused on preserving institutional continuity at all costs. Even if that means creating emotional distance inside the royal family itself. And perhaps that's the most revealing part of this entire story. The monarchy has always protected its jewels. Its palaces. Its ceremonies. Its symbols of power. But today, its most valuable possession may not be a crown at all. It may be memory. The ability to preserve history exactly as the institution wants it remembered. And if recent reports are true, Buckingham Palace just made one thing very clear. Access to that memory is no longer guaranteed by association. It must be earned through loyalty, duty, and institutional trust. Which leaves one final question hanging over the royal family tonight. If the monarchy is now redefining who can access its past, what else might it be quietly redefining about its future? And perhaps more importantly, who will still be standing inside the palace walls when that future finally arrives? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because the next chapter of this royal story may already be unfolding behind closed doors.